My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. I am upset because I see a meaningless world. A meaningless world engenders fear. God did not create a meaningless world. My thoughts are images I have made. Hopefully you start to recognize the main point within this review lesson, looking back at those same lessons, and that there is a distinct difference between, say, our thoughts and God's thoughts, our real thoughts. So in the sense of discovering the real thought, or what we are in the mind of God, we can see a whole new world, a whole different landscape of what we think of as reality. And that's a pretty phenomenal statement. I mean, as we've discussed about there being a whole nother world beyond this one we think we see, is about essentially what the spiritual universe is. So remember that this is kind of a detaching. This is all about a detaching from your insistence that this is your reality, and that this is all that is real, and that this is who I am, and so on. And all these lessons are taking different aspects, different variations, and really just disconnecting from this to be our reality, so that we can actually start to have that experience of what it refers to as reality. Say that mind of God, and that recognition of that unified spiritual essence of the universe. So it is a whole different experience than what this one is, and that you don't have to maintain this unless you find value in it. Now, I still find value in this world. I would like to expand in this world as much as possible, because in my perspective, and as many people misunderstand A Course in Miracles, insisting that you have to get out, and it's not true. It's saying this is an option. You can get out. You can stop seeing this world if you stop valuing it. It's just simply giving you the keys in which transcendence and ascension is all about. So recognize that it's not pressuring you, and it's not making you feel guilty or ashamed or anything. It's not trying to get you to feel bad for what you're doing in this world. As I did just that, I gave up all value in the world. I let it all go. I forgave everything. I stopped grieving and resenting, and I stopped all of it. And in that moment, I started to have my transcendent death experience, where the world, the universe, and everything disappeared. And it just so happens that it was December 10th, 2012, when everything was the end of the world, right? And so in that same recognition, it was literally the end of the universe for me. And in that experience, I chose to come back. I chose to come back because I recognized I still wanted something here. I still had value here. And I had to accept it in order to come back. So I've described it in many different fashions, but in that sense of I resented and the fact that my message would not be conveyed about what I saw, as well as I wouldn't have the family that I saw. And so I felt that. Yes, I felt that. And I instantly snapped back here and came back into the physical world, and came back building up resentments and grievances and keeping a nice little comfortable level being in this world. So it's not about, like A Course in Miracles, yes, you can have a happier life, but you're going to have resentments and grievances if you're going to be in life at all. If you don't have resentments and grievances, if you don't have any upsets, if you don't find any value in this world or anything that's keeping you attached to like any of those, then you won't be here. You won't be here. Nobody will be here. Okay? So as much as you see spiritual people saying that they have no resentments, no grievances, completely healed mind, all enlightened, they are still here. So there's many more variables that are still present. Now, and I would tell you, I have resentments and grievances deliberately so that I can be here experiencing this. I know what it is like to experience the world through God's mind. as well as I know what it's like to experience it through insane mind, crazy mind, this physical world mind. Do you remember the difference? Now, as you're learning how to go down into the mind, learning how, and keep practicing, take meditation, go into that space, into that presence, go deep into your mind, and you can discover it. Now, of course, it's so obvious that it's hard to discover. We like to think that there's so many different variables and objects and things and places and people and energy and all this different constructs that make it seem like, oh, either you are aware of it or not. And it's really not true. It's everything. It is always there. And so once you recognize essentially what it's not, you recognize what it is. Now, it's tricky because, as I say, it's everything, it's everywhere. It's a little bit of a misunderstanding because you like to think that it is what it's not. Say, these ideas of what you have of physical form, location-based, time continuum. And it's a little tricky because until you actually get to that space, you're not going to really comprehend it. You will not comprehend it. It's impossible. It is not possible for this perspective mind to grasp it, totality. No. You can kind of get the idea that you can't, and then when you get into the experience, you can recognize that there is that essence, but you can't bring it back here. You can't bring it back into this world, but you sure can have a recognition. Where it is it? Where is it? What is it? It's right here. This is it. This is it. But you don't even know what I'm talking about. You see what I'm saying? This is a crazy world, and crazy. So the big aspect of what this is about is that you will see an insane world as you see your insane mind. And that if you want to discover the way of the unified essence of what the spiritual universe, the way the world was intended to be experienced, you have to think in that way of without opposition, without that knowledge of good and evil. You have to recognize it all as the same. And in thinking in that same way of what is all the same, you then have nothing that is good or nothing that is bad in your mind. And it is all just love. And therefore you experience the universe as just love. And you literally see it differently. You won't see it physical, that's one thing.